What if the very thing you think is your strength is what's slowly eroding you? What if your kindness, that soft, radiant core, has become a mask that hides your pain? What if beneath all your giving, all your compassion, is a small voice whispering, "What about me?" You've always believed in being good. Thoughtfulness, patience, empathy. You show up, listen, help, stay late, reply early, and forgive faster than most would even consider. But tell me, when was the last time someone asked if you were okay? When was the last time your kindness wasn't just expected but actually cherished? There's a silent tragedy in being the nice one, a quiet erosion that takes place, not through loud betrayals but through 1,000 tiny cuts, overlooked favors, unspoken disappointments, and the cold sting of being taken for granted. And still you stay kind. But deep down, you're starting to wonder if kindness alone is enough, if it's even safe. This isn't your fault. What you're experiencing is a psychological paradox that most people will never talk about because they benefit from it. So let's talk. There's a reason this pattern keeps repeating. There's a reason why the people who give the most often feel the most invisible. And that reason isn't just social, it's existential. You see, when you were younger, maybe even as a child, you learned that love often came with conditions. You learned that being good meant being accepted, being quiet meant being safe, being helpful meant being needed. And so your personality, or at least the version you show the world, was carved around this idea that goodness is currency, that if you just give enough, endure enough, smile enough, eventually the world will reciprocate. But the world doesn't work that way. At least not always. In a society obsessed with dominance and self-interest, kindness can become a kind of soft target, not because it's weak, but because it makes others uncomfortable. Why? Because your kindness is a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see in it. People who have buried their vulnerability, people who wear sarcasm like armor, people who trust no one because they've been hurt too many times. When they meet someone kind, someone real, someone open, it threatens their illusion of control. So they mock you, or use you, or just quietly vanish. Not because you're wrong to be kind, but because your existence challenges their entire belief system. This is why sometimes, the more loving you are, the lonelier you feel. Because in a world that celebrates ego and sharp edges, soft hearts are often misunderstood. But let me be clear, you are not too much. You are not naive. You are not weak. You're simply living in a society that doesn't know what to do with people like you. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But most people never do. They project, deflect, attack. And when they see someone who has the courage to live with an open heart, they don't know whether to admire you or destroy you. This brings us to something deeper. There's a concept in psychology known as the compassion fatigue spiral. It begins innocently. You help someone, they thank you. It feels good. You help again. They start expecting it. You keep giving, but the thanks stop. You're no longer a kind person. You're just that person who always helps. And now, if you don't help, if you hesitate even once, you're met with guilt, confusion, or even anger. The gift becomes a duty, and the duty becomes a burden. This is the shadow of generosity. Jung called it the unconscious self-sacrifice complex, a pattern where the individual finds identity in helping others, even if it means erasing themselves. You don't just do kindness, you are kindness, and that is dangerous. Because what happens when people stop seeing the person behind the kindness? What happens when you're reduced to a role, the fixer, the caretaker, the listener, and your pain, your needs, your humanity go unnoticed? Eventually, something breaks. It may not be visible at first, but inside you start to feel it. Resentment like a slow drip, fatigue that doesn't go away, a dull ache that grows louder when no one's around. You smile, but it feels hollow. You say it's fine, but it's not. And here's the most tragic part, you start to blame yourself. You think, maybe I'm just too sensitive, or maybe I need to toughen up, or worse, maybe no one cares because I don't matter that much. Stop, that voice isn't yours. That voice is a wound shaped by years of silent endurance, years of putting others first, years of telling yourself that love has to be earned. But here's a radical thought. What if it doesn't? What if you are worthy not because of what you give or how much you endure, but simply because you exist? What if your kindness is not a strategy, but a sacred part of your being that deserves protection? Ask yourself this. If someone treated your closest friend the way you allow others to treat you, would you be okay with it? If the answer is no, then why is it okay for you? Your kindness is not the problem. The problem is a world that has forgotten the sacredness of gentleness, a world that confuses availability with insignificance, that praises grind culture while ridiculing rest, that teaches us to be useful before we are allowed to be human. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You don't have to apologize for your boundaries. You are allowed to say no, even if you've always said yes. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. Because the only way to protect your light is to honor your shadow, to acknowledge that within your kindness lives a fierce, sovereign self, one that knows when to give and when to walk away. Nietzsche once wrote, "He who cannot put his thoughts on ice should not enter into the heat of dispute." In the same way, he who cannot say no will never be free to say yes with meaning. So what can you do? First, pause. Look at the relationships in your life. Really look. Are they built on mutual respect or silent expectation? Do the people around you truly see you or only what you do for them? Then ask yourself, when was the last time you gave to yourself with the same intensity you give to others? When did you last rest, say no, or even ask for help? The goal is not to become cold or cynical. The goal is to become whole, to integrate the parts of yourself you've exiled, your anger, your assertiveness, your desires, and recognize that they too are part of your humanity. The philosopher Alan Watts once said, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth." You are not a role. You are not a label. You are not the sum of what you do for others. You are something deeper, a soul navigating a complex world with courage and heart. That deserves recognition, that deserves boundaries, and that deserves peace. So next time someone says you're too kind, smile, but know this, you are not too kind. You are simply kind in a world that has forgotten what that means, and that is your quiet rebellion. But what happens when that quiet rebellion starts to cost you? What happens when you finally draw the line and people start walking away? It hurts. Of course it does. You thought kindness would build bridges. And yet, the moment you stop being endlessly available, some of those bridges burned. You learned something cruelly enlightening. Some people weren't connected to you, they were connected to what you gave. And when the giving stopped, so did the affection. There's a silence that follows this realization, a bitter kind of clarity. It's not just disappointing, it's disorienting. You start to question the very foundation of your relationships. Was it ever real? That question stings, it lingers, and it tempts you back into the old role, the helper, the peacemaker, the one who never causes trouble, because even pain can feel safer than isolation. But you must resist, because this is the turning point. The moment when your kindness begins to mature, not into bitterness, but into something fierce, something sacred, boundaried kindness. Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming whole. Not just nice, not just good, but real, complete, integrated. He believed that wholeness comes not from denying the shadow, but from embracing it. The shadow isn't just rage or envy or fear. It's also strength, decisiveness, self-protection. The parts of you that said, no more, the parts of you that said, I matter too, those are not betrayals of your nature. They're the evolution of it. Ask yourself this, who would you be if you stopped performing? Who would you be if you stopped being useful? Would anyone still love you? If that question terrifies you, good. That fear shows you exactly where the healing needs to begin. Because love that is dependent on performance is not love. It is dependency. It is transaction. And you are not a transaction. You are not an emotional ATM, not a safety net, not a default setting. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to be messy, confused, and even selfish sometimes. That's not weakness. That's what it means to be human. So when someone withdraws because you finally asked for something in return, let them. When someone recoils because you stopped playing the part they cast for you, let them. You are not here to shrink into the comfort of others. You are here to become who you truly are, no matter what that costs. And yes, it will cost something. Maybe a few friendships, maybe your place in certain social dynamics, maybe your image as the dependable one. But what you gain in return is priceless. You gain inner peace, you gain authenticity. You gain relationships rooted in mutuality, not obligation. There's a line from Dostoevsky that reads, "To love someone means to see them as God intended them." But how many people actually see you, not your role, not your usefulness? Can you even see yourself? That's the real task, to begin re-seeing yourself, not as a reflection of others' needs, but as an autonomous being with your own. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Kindness without boundaries is not virtue, it's self-neglect. Generosity without discernment is not love, it's leakage. Compassion without self-respect is not noble, it's erasure. You are not here to disappear in order to be loved. You are here to be seen fully, even in your no's, your fatigue, your anger, your solitude, especially there, because that's where your soul breathes. So how do you begin to reclaim yourself? Start with this: audit your yeses. The next time someone asks you for something, pause. Ask, do I want to say yes? Do I have the capacity to say yes? Would I be okay if they said no to me? If the answer to any of those is no, don't say yes. This isn't cruelty. This is coherence. Every yes that violates your truth is a betrayal of yourself. And self-betrayal is not kindness. It is slow, silent self-destruction. Nietzsche wrote, "He who despises himself still respects himself as one who despises." What does that mean? It means that even self-hate contains an identity, a kind of distorted integrity. But to love yourself requires letting go of who you were trained to be. It requires breaking the image, dropping the mask, disappointing the people who only loved you for your compliance. It requires letting some things die so something new can be born. That's the paradox of growth. To rise into your fullest self, something smaller must fall away. Maybe it's the old you who never said no. Maybe it's the version of you who mistook being needed for being loved. Maybe it's the you who kept showing up for people who never noticed when you were gone. Let that version rest. Mourn it, honor it, but don't carry it any further. You're allowed to be good and still have boundaries. You're allowed to care deeply and still walk away. You're allowed to love and still say, "This is not enough for me," because your worth is not measured by how much you tolerate. Your value is not a function of your sacrifice. You are not a candle meant to burn endlessly, lighting everyone else's path while you melt into nothing. You are a soul, a person, a being with needs, desires, edges, and fire. Don't lose that fire trying to keep others warm. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to become. And the moment you understand that, really feel it in your bones, is the moment everything starts to shift. Some people will leave. Let them. Some things will break. Let them. What remains will be real, and in that reality you will find peace. Not the peace of being liked, or praised, or useful, but the deeper peace of being whole, unedited, unfiltered, unapologetically alive. And maybe, just maybe, you'll finally realize you were never too kind. You were just waiting for a world or a life where your kindness didn't require your disappearance.